speaking. We've been cleared for takeoff and we'll be departing shortly.
Go ahead and give that man a round of applause.
That boy's got talent.
Welcome to the Josh Kilgore podcast. My first guest today is a former Marine of 12 years. He's owned 3 businesses. He has a bachelor's degree in international relations and diplomacy. He did 1 year of seminary. He's currently enrolled in a master's program for emergency management. He's married with 6 kids and has a foster kid. Joe Morris, welcome.
Thanks. Good to be here.
I'm excited. I've been excited to do this thing.
Me too.
Well, let's start from the beginning.
Sounds good.
So you grew up in San Diego.
Grew up in San Diego, yep, for 18 years. And then joined the Marine Corps at 18, right out of high school. Did that for 12 years, traveled all over the world, did a bunch of cool stuff, and now I'm in Albany, Illinois.
Right on. So do you have siblings?
So I have 2 half-sisters. My mom got remarried when I was 10, and then my dad had another kid. So one is 10 years younger, the other's 12 or 13 years younger, something. So,
Wow.
Yep, and that's it.
Right on. So do you want to go into any of your early life stuff like that? Games, fun?
What do you want to know?
What was it like growing up in San Diego? What is kind of your perspective?
Yeah. So San Diego is super cool place. Weather's beautiful all year round. That's kind of what everybody knows about San Diego. So I grew up, 5 miles from the beach. So Getting down to the beach was no big deal at all. You know, hop in the car, 15 minutes tops, you're down at the beach. So in high school, me and my friends spent a lot of time at the beach pretending we were bodyboarders and that sort of thing. Growing up by the ocean is just so much fun. It's the weather's great all year round. So played baseball. And that was really the cool thing about that part of the country. You know, during the wintertime here, nobody's out playing baseball, but we played all year round. So, yep.
Very cool. All right. Any notable stories from like early life? Just any funny stuff?
No, nothing I can think of. Right. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe when we're talking, something will pop up. But
for sure.
Yeah.
So in high school, like what kind of a kid were you? Like,
so my friend group was a little strange because I went to a private Christian school, and my group of friends were not the Christian kids. Yeah. So we were the troublemakers, and we were kind of the black sheep of the school. So we had a mix of couple jocks, skateboarders, couple surfers, but all troublemakers. So that was kind of my group of friends. Right. So I don't know how you would pin me down. I played baseball, but I wasn't very good at it. I tried to skateboard, but I wasn't very good at it. And one of our guys in our friend group was a semi-pro skateboarder. So we would go skateboard with him, but we would usually just sit around watching him skate because he's the only one that could actually do anything. So it's kind of hard to pin me down. I didn't really fit into a specific group.
That's cool. But, I like that.
Yeah.
Right on. So what made you want to join the Marines?
So I was kind of into the military stuff my whole life, playing with Army men and G.I. Joes and, all that kind of stuff. And then all the neighborhood kids, we all had plastic guns, and we would split up into teams, and, we would go hide throughout the neighborhood and go hunt each other down and shoot each other and beat each other up and all that kind of stuff. So it was kind of baked in. And then it was just always something that I aspired to. And then once, junior, senior year of high school came around, and real life is kind of right there knocking at the door. It's like, well, I got to do something. I was a terrible student, had no desire to go to college. So it was either go to community college and try to play baseball, which I wasn't very good, so I probably wouldn't have been able to. or join the military, or just work a job. I was working at Pacific Honda, which is a car. It's where they repaired. It was at the car dealership, the repair shop at the car dealership. So it was either keep working there or join the military and try something else. And so it was between the Army and the Marine Corps, and I went with the Marine Corps. So
Were your parents in the Army, Marine Corps, anything like that, or was that? Are you like the?
Yeah. So my grandfather he was in the Army back in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s. But other than that, no. Mm-mm.
Cool.
Yep. So
What did you do while you were there? Did you have like one job, or did you do multiple things?
So technically, I was a truck driver by trade. That was my official job. But I hated driving trucks, so I got out of that any chance that I could. So the 12 years I was in, I was really only doing the truck driving thing for maybe 4 years, and I did all kinds of other things. So yeah,
Just kind of filling in where you could.
yeah. So I was a Marine security guard. So I guarded embassies overseas. I did that for a few years. I taught martial arts for a few years. That was probably the most fun.
I'll bet.
Yep. And then I was an instructor at the truck driving school, so I didn't really deal with the truck driving stuff. I did more of the licensing stuff.
Yeah.
So that was a good gig because there was really no supervision. So it was me and one other guy running the office.
Yeah.
And we had a blast. Yeah.
Right on.
Yep.
Did you go anywhere notable? Like any place that was like just like, man, that is the place?
Oh yeah. South Africa.
Yeah,
For sure. Coolest place I've ever been. Oh man, it's the best. So I did a couple years in Japan. While I was in Japan, I deployed to Thailand, South Africa, Nigeria. I got to travel to Germany and Israel, and deployed to Afghanistan. So I've been quite a few places. But Cape Town, South Africa, coolest place on earth.
What about it?
Oh, so Cape Town is very similar to San Diego.
Really?
Oh yeah. So the weather's nice all year round. It's right on the beach. There's mountains to hike. You can go whale watching from the shore. It's got one of the. I don't know if you ever watched Shark Week. So one of the biggest great white feeding grounds is in South Africa, in Cape Town.
Good.
So I didn't get to go do that. I really wanted to go and do check out the shark thing and go down in the cage and everything.
Did you do that?
No, I didn't get to do that. No, I really
Wow.
That's one of my regrets of not going out and doing that.
You would do that?
Oh yeah, sure.
That sounds terrifying.
I'd be terrified. Oh, I'd be terrified, but I would do it. And then so if you drive like an hour outside of Cape Town, it's just wine country as far as you can see. And
wow.
so I got
into grapes.
Yeah. Oh, grapes as far as you can see. Yep. So I got into the wine thing a little bit. There was a guy he was a political officer at the embassy, and he was like in his 60s, maybe 70s, and he's been in the State Department his whole life. And he knew a lot about wine. So I got a little bit of a wine education, and we went wine tasting all the time. And so, yeah, it was good. Cool. It was a good time. Pretty cool.
Did you learn any lessons in the military, like major life lessons or just kind of realizations, anything like that?
So when I was I think I was 19, when I deployed to Thailand. So my boss at the time, we were sitting around, and I don't know why I asked the guy, I said, hey, if I want to get promoted, what do I got to do? And he said, volunteer for everything, no matter how much it sucks, no matter how many people don't want to do it or going to complain about it, just volunteer for everything that you can. And, and that'll work out well for you. And so fast forward 10 years, I actually ran into that guy again in 29 Palms, California, and he was still the same rank. So he did not have a very successful career because of some trouble that he got in. But I was talking to him, and his advice was good advice. It really was. And I looking back, it was like one of those things where you could tell that the advice he was giving was because he had made those mistakes in the past, and he knew that he was going to suffer for those mistakes. So if someone was genuinely asking him, he was going to be honest with a young guy who doesn't know what he's doing. So honestly, I still take that advice today. Anytime something comes up, I'm up for whatever you need me to do. Let's do it.
I think that's a great thing to live by for sure.
Yep.
I feel like people
try to get out of stuff.
Yeah, they try to get out of stuff instead of just doing.
Yep.
And, kind of taking one for the team if that, but
most people try to get out of stuff. That's for sure.
Yeah. There's a lot to be. It's a good thing to help each other out, even when you don't want to do it. Like afterward, you're not going to be like, "Oh man, that sucked."
Yep.
You'll be like, "Man, that was
right.
I at least helped said person or whatever."
It's like one of those things where, like, if you're moving, you don't want to pack your own stuff and move your own stuff. But if a buddy calls you and says, "Hey, you want to help me move?" Let's go.
Yeah.
It's so much more fun to help someone else do something.
I feel the same when I'm like, I got an old motorcycle out there I'm building, and just working on it by yourself kind of sucks. But when you got like 3 or 4 of your buddies, it's like you're in it together, even if they're just sitting over there talking.
Right.
Is there any like characters or notable people that you met while in the military besides the guy you said earlier?
Dozens of them. Oh man, there's some characters for sure.
Bet.
Oh, you see all kinds of stuff. So I mean, like, there was one guy who he could have been a stand-up comedian. I mean, he would literally just do stand-up comedy for all of us and just make us laugh.
That's funny.
There was guys that are just fearless, and it's like,
I bet that's something to see.
Because like, in those situations, like in Afghanistan, everybody's a little bit scared, especially when something's happening. Yeah. But then there's just like 1 or 2 guys that they're not scared. And it's just like, how does that happen? And you're like watching it. It's almost like an outer body experience where like you're watching these fearless people just do things that are just, it's like complete disregard for themselves,
Yeah, that's wow.
And it's like, and they don't even think about it. They don't have to think about it. That's just who they are. And
that sounds just like a powerful experience.
Watching somebody like that is just, it's crazy. Yeah.
So is that like, were these like the more like seasoned guys, or was these
were like 19-year-old kids.
First
19-year-old kids, there was probably, the guy that I'm thinking of specifically, I think it was his second deployment. But he was a maniac, man.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Just live for it.
Yeah. In a good way.
Yeah.
Good dude.
How was transitioning from the military to your civilian life? Was that rough on you, or?
No, not really. There's a lot of guys that struggle, and I actually just talked to a guy that I was with in Afghanistan yesterday. It's the first time I talked to him in like 10 years, and he just called me out of nowhere.
Wow.
So it was kind of neat. We talked for about an hour, and he was telling me that a lot of the guys that we were with have struggled. A lot of it marriage stuff.
Yeah.
And, I did go through a divorce during that time, back when I was, 08, 09, that time frame. But I don't know. And I got out in 14. So the divorce stuff was just kind of, probably shouldn't have got married in the first place.
Yeah.
Wasn't ready for it, that sort of thing. But transitioning out of the military, I guess it was kind of tough figuring out, like, what do I do now? And that's when we moved here and opened the CrossFit gym and everything. So I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do, but, it's like you do one thing and you do the next thing, and it just kind of falls into place of what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of been my experience and again, going back to the, volunteer for anything, just do stuff.
Yeah.
That's kind of my personality. I don't sit around and think
Yeah.
a lot. I'm just more of like, let's dive in and do it. And if
Yeah.
it works, let's do it again. If it doesn't work, then we won't do it again.
Right. And we'll learn the lessons.
Right. And we'll learn the lessons. Sometimes we repeat the mistakes, and that's part of it too.
Yep.
But
I think that's really
Yeah.
cool that you're the type of guy that does, if you're interested in something, you go for it. You check it out. And if it's for you, great. And if it's not, cool.
Yeah.
And, you learn.
Right.
You learn the whole way.
Yep.
It can never be a bad
yeah.
situation as long as you're thinking about it.
Right. Yeah, it's like I've got friends that all they do is think,
Yeah.
and they complain to me all the time. It's like, man, if I would just do this, I'm like, why don't you just do it?
Yeah.
And they don't have it. They don't have any reason why they're not doing it.
Yeah.
They just can't get out of their own head.
Yeah.
And I'm the opposite. Like sometimes I make stupid
Yeah.
mistakes because I didn't think something through. But you know, in my mind, I'd rather
make the mistake.
I'd
for
rather
sure.
do something and screw it up than not do something and wonder what if I had done this thing. And so
Was it a Wayne Gretzky quote to where he's like, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take?
I think that was Wayne Gretzky. Yeah.
That is so
No regrets, man.
no regrets, man. That's awesome. So when did you meet your wife?
So we met in the end of 2010. It was like right before Christmas, like 2 weeks before Christmas, like a week before Christmas. Yeah, it was December 19th, actually, because that's our anniversary. We ended up getting married on the day we met.
That's cool.
2 years later. Yeah,
That's
not
cool.
not the same day we met. That'd be a little weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri in October. And so I was there maybe a month and a half before we met, 2 months maybe. And she hates when I say that I picked her up in a bar,
Yeah.
but I picked her up in a bar.
Yeah.
But context of the story, I like to just throw that out there to people.
Yeah, that's funny.
When she's with me, because she's like, stop telling people that. It
gotta
was
pick on
it was
each
a
other.
sports bar. Like it wasn't like a
Yeah,
dedicated bar, but it was like a Sunday night.
Yeah.
And it was my friend's birthday. So he wanted to go out for his birthday. And it was, it wasn't even that late. It was like 5, 6 o'clock at night. So we went out to get some chicken wings and drink a couple beers. And her friend came, and they just came to watch basketball. Her friend was a basketball fan and picked her up in a bar.
Wow. What drew you to her?
She was, so she had 3 kids from her previous marriage. I had 1. And at the time, my son was in back and forth between California and Macedonia, which is where his mom's from. So it was kind of, she was real responsible. I mean, she had single mom with 3 kids. You don't really have much of a choice.
Right.
She was in the Army. She was actually a higher rank than I was. So it was kind of like, obviously she's got her life together. She's doing the right things in life.
Yeah.
She brought me back to church, things like that. And she's just solid all around. Solid. Turned me into a man, because when I met her, I was definitely behaving like a little boy.
I know the feeling.
So, she demanded certain things of me, or else the relationship wasn't going to be a relationship. And
That's great.
yeah, it works out. Yep. So, yep.
That is awesome. So is there anything that you've learned from just like sitting back and watching her or being with her?
Yeah. So what's interesting, so she was a federal investigator for the Army. So have you seen the show NCIS?
I'm not sure if I have or not.
So that's what she did in the Army. So she was she investigated, felony crimes, things like that, interrogating suspects and stuff like that. So she's actually been to schools to teach her how to be a human lie detector.
Yeah.
So watching her interrogate the children.
Oh, I mean, that is great.
When we knew they did something wrong. And like, she's just got this way to get them to admit and to confess what they did. And I'm just like, how do you do that? You know, so just
that's cool. Yeah, that's got to be something.
That's probably the coolest thing she does is she knows how to question people to get them to say the real thing that they're thinking or the true thing that happened. So yeah, it's interesting. A lot of psychology that goes into that.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Yep. So she says the only people the only good liars are sociopaths.
Yeah.
Yep. She said she's encountered a couple and they're just because they believe what they're saying.
Yeah.
And it's like this weird thing. And she's, So.
I wonder what percentage of the population is actually sociopathic.
I don't know. Yeah. It's scary to think about. I probably don't want to know.
It's so weird. What makes your guys' marriage so strong? Like, are there any tools that you use or like anything like that as far as your guys' communication goes or like anything like that? For instance, like we like to, if say I'm having certain feelings, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I will sit her down and ask her first and foremost, are you in the right mindset to listen to my feelings? So we enter communication zone. And then I express myself to her and she'll kind of paraphrase that back to me. Do you guys do anything like that? Or are you guys you're just there already? And
No. So, I mean, the first couple years, like there was some rough times and a lot of it has to do with miscommunication, and, certain expectations that one person thinks should be met,
right? And
the other person either disagrees or just has no idea that that's even an expectation,
right?
So and that's an interesting thing looking back on 10 years of being married, and 10 plus years. So it's like the communication thing is super important. And then even just in the last like year or two, we've gotten a lot better about certain things, but I think kids throw another layer of complexity in there.
I can imagine.
Yeah. I mean, cause it's like, how are you going to parent? What are the expectations, and then even it gets into, how are you going to parenting a newborn to a 4-year-old, it's really not that complicated.
Yeah.
It's really not. But once they hit like, 6th grade, fifth grade, 6th grade, like, dude, those kids are changing quickly, especially boys.
Yeah. Kind of developing their own personalities.
Yeah. Because the big difference between boys and girls is boys are like wild animals, man. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know why they're doing what they're doing. But they're doing all the time. And then girls, like my daughter, she, wants to help do the dishes and she wants to clear off the table and she wants to make sure people are getting along. And it's like,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. Do you know the comedian Nate Bargatze?
I don't.
No. So he's hilarious, but yeah, he's like, he did the analogy of, my friend wanted me to babysit for him. And it was a boy, and he just threw this wild bobcat in my house, and he had a girl, so he had no idea what he was in for. And it's like that's so true. His joke about that. Girls they're just different. You know? Anybody who says men and women aren't different I don't know what they're looking at, because they are. but yeah.
I was rowdy as hell when I was a kid, man.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to do is run around
and jump
my bike and
yep. break stuff,
Build stuff out of sticks. I love breaking stuff.
There you go. Yeah. Just to see what's inside of it or what it does. Yeah. Yep.
How it works. I was always into how things work.
Yeah.
Loved working on my bikes and.
Well, now you do that. See, I'm not like that. My dad was a mechanic, and I had no interest in spending 8 hours in the garage taking apart something and putting it back together. No interest. I don't have the patience for it.
What were you interested in as like a rambunctious little kid?
Baseball.
Sports.
That's it. Just baseball.
Really?
That's all I cared about. Yep.
Very cool.
For a long time.
So you got a lot of kids.
Yeah, I do have a lot of kids.
What's that like?
I mean, when you live in it for so long,
yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do? Because people say all the time, I can't believe how many kids you have. How do you do it?
Yeah.
I'm like, I just do it. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't have much of a choice.
Yeah.
You gotta feed them all. You gotta make sure they're all, bathed and clothed and all that stuff. So
is there a thing to where like, your kids range from ages 20 to
1.
Yep. So are there like phases like from 1 to 20 that you're noticing like your first kid go through and then you're like, okay, the next one's going through this. So we're going to have to prepare the third one because they're about to move over into that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because, it's like humans have been having families forever. So, so it's like, there's nothing new.
Yeah.
There's really not like people like to think like every generation we see something and it's like, oh, this is this brand new thing or this new way of parenting or it's like, no, it's the same stuff that's been going on. It just looks different because technology and culture and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
But, it's like the oldest one suffers the most because the parents don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
You don't have a clue what you're doing.
Wow.
Unless you grew up with a bunch of siblings, you probably have a better idea.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I didn't have any siblings growing up. I grew up with my grandparents. My grandparents raised me. Yeah. So I was never around my sisters hardly at all. So when I had kids, I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
So, so I look back and like some of the mistakes that we've made. Yeah. My kids still make fun of me for my adult children now. Yeah. So I will tell this. This is I might get some hate for this, but this was a mistake and I'm owning up to it. Yeah. I've apologized to my adult children for it. So when they were about, I think the oldest was maybe 9. So maybe 9, 8, and 6 at some point. I thought it would be a good idea to have them get rid of their stuffed animals because I was trying to make men out of them. Yeah. But stuffed animals are a good thing for kids to have. There's a lot of reasons why kids should have stuffed animals. So I made them get rid of their stuffed animals. They still bring it up today. Wow. They're like, hey, remember that time you made us get rid of our stuffed animals? Like, I apologized for it, but just stuff like that, it's like you think something's a good idea and you think it's going to be a net positive. And in reality, it's probably not a good idea. But going back to the phases thing, like you were talking about. Yeah. So, the more kids you have, the more you learn about how to handle situations, what's good for them, what's bad for them. But then the other part of that is every kid's different. Yeah. So like our oldest is, he's outgoing. He's a goofball. He says things just to get a rise out of people because he thinks it's funny.
A little bit of shenaniganry.
Oh yeah. Lots of shenanigans. And then his brother, the second oldest, he is like quiet, keeps to himself, doesn't say a whole lot. They're just totally opposite. Yeah. So we didn't raise them the same way because the younger one,
oh man,
we had different issues with him than we did with the older one. So you just kind of have to adjust to each kid. But the more kids you have, the better you get at it. So, I mean, our we're definitely doing a better job with our younger kids.
Yeah.
And but see, that's part of that cycle too, where the older kids think the younger kids are spoiled.
Yeah.
Because they have more, whatever that means, than they did. But it's like, we're not spoiling them. We've learned that what we did to you was probably not a good idea. So we're not going to do that to them. And, so it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to figure all this stuff out. So
I think that the idea you were just talking about, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where, you just do it and you learn your lessons in doing it. It's hard at first.
Yeah.
You make your mistakes and you see things that you could have done better, but you get through that and you become good at that.
Sure.
So
yeah.
Good stuff.
Yep.
So budgeting your time and stuff to run your business, and how do you budget your time?
I don't.
Yeah, you just do.
I just do.
You just kind of whatever.
Yeah. So this is one of those things where I should get better at budgeting my time and things like that. So I am very good at prioritizing just in my own head.
Yeah.
I know what needs to be done, so I just do it. The trouble with that, though, is sometimes those smaller things get left behind and you forget to do them, or you just kind of run out of time to do them. So I should be better at doing it. And the thing, though, with that is technology does help. So, like, I make a lot of notes on my phone, or a lot of reminders.
Yeah.
So I just have reminders dinging all the time, just to remind me to do small things like send my accountant my bank statements, which it's not that big of a deal because I'm going to send them eventually.
Yeah.
But a lot of times I'll see that reminder go off and I'm like, I can do that tomorrow. And then 3 days go by and she sends me an email and says, hey, can you send me those bank statements? And then I always apologize. Like, I saw that go off on my phone. I should have done it right then and there. So stuff like that. But yeah, I don't have a calendar with my whole life in it. I do work a 40-hour week job, so I'm busy with that during the day, and then got to get to the business stuff in the evening. So that's something I'm working on. But I don't really budget my time.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you have a degree in international relations. Mm-hmm. What is that? So I've never done this professionally. It's just my degree program. So people who do that stuff professionally. So basically what you're trying to do. So a lot of foreign policy, what the Department of Defense and the executive branch and things like that, when they're making these decisions of, how do we handle Israel, Palestine? How do we handle Ukraine, right? Like all these things that we're seeing in the news. So basically, if you're a policy analyst is what a lot of people are, I think. I haven't gotten into that job field a lot. But a lot of it is, let's look at the history of the region, the history of the conflict, the current politics of the countries that are involved. What does the region look like? The whole, like with Ukraine thing, right? So like the Secretary of State came out and said that NATO will be, that Ukraine will join NATO. So the implications of that, what are the positive implications? What are the negative implications? So trying to look at the problem from all these different angles, politics, culture, history, and then formulating what should we as America do in this specific situation. Yeah. So that's kind of the idea of it, is just, going through the program, looking at a bunch of different conflicts, and weapons of mass destruction, like, nuclear proliferation, all that kind of stuff. And just seeing why haven't we annihilated each other with a nuclear war? Your guess is as good as mine, but trying to make the most. So that was actually what was kind of fun about the degree.
because there is a right answer, but the only way to find out the right answer is to implement that certain policy. And then it's
See what happens.
I hope this works. So you're trying to make the best educated guess that you can. Because humans are, fallible. You don't know how they're going to handle certain things. So that was kind of the fun of it. It was just kind of getting to learn the history of a lot of different countries and conflicts and regions. And, So when I watch the news, I probably look at it a little differently than a lot of people. Like the whole Israeli thing, most people don't know the history of Israel and how they became a nation in 1948. And the British had a huge hand in that. Most people don't know all those little details, and all those little details matter of why what's going on today is going on today. So, and I'm no expert by any means. Yeah. It's like a hobby thing. Yeah. So, yeah.
What, you were just interested in that and decided to get a degree in it? Were you trying to get...
Yeah. So when I worked for the State Department, when I was a Marine security guard, that's when I really got interested in some of that stuff. Yeah. Just being in other countries and being around, the political officers and the economics officers, and just listening to these guys talk. And, they're brilliant people. I mean, that's just what they do. They read and they write. That's what their job is. And just being around those people and, how smart they are and how they're, all of these, depending on which side of the aisle you're on, and, we don't have to get political, but there's always agendas.
Oh, yeah.
There's always people scheming. There's always going to be greedy people. There's always going to be, evil people. There's always going to be good people. But, there are a lot of good people out there who really do just want what's best for America. Because it's like you see all the craziness on TV. Yeah. And there's a lot of craziness out there. There's a lot of craziness out there. But the guy, actually working hard, trying to do the right thing gets a bad rap because they all get lumped in together. Yeah. So unfortunately, everything's turned into left versus right. Yeah. And, and I play that game too because I have my own beliefs. Yeah. But we could definitely do better at not, dehumanizing each other.
Yeah, I think that's a major problem, especially, since, I'm not sure when the whole I remember being in the 90s, politics wasn't that big of a deal, or at least a big part of my life, or anybody that was around me weren't talking about politics. But it seems like even through high school, maybe a little bit. Right. But it seems like somewhere along the line, it's like we got divided hard.
Oh, sure.
And I feel like that's a relatively recent sort of thing that might have been brewing for a long time. Right. But that's the kind of agenda.
Well, the nastiness of politics has always been there, but it used to be between the politicians. Yeah. Now it's between everybody.
Interesting.
It's like, you think about Nixon, and the Democrats went hard after him for his scandal, and it worked. Yeah. But that was still mostly a political thing. You know what I mean? It wasn't like the whole country wanted to kill each other. It was just, he got caught in his scandal. He doesn't need to be president anymore. And then, fast forward to Clinton and his scandals, the Republicans went hard on that scandal.
Good Lord.
You know what I mean?
I do remember a bit of that.
But even back then, it wasn't like Americans hating each other because the Democrat did something or the Republican did something. It was just, they did something. Yeah. They should be held accountable for it. But I don't hate you because you voted for him and I didn't.
Right.
But
he didn't do that because he was a Democrat. He did that because he's a human.
Right. But now it's like, no matter what happens, everybody just wants to kill each other. Yeah. And it's just like,
oh man, that's, yeah. We're back. Okay. So we were talking about your international relations and whatnot. And then seminary, you did a year of seminary? Mm-hmm. What is that?
So theological education. So the seminary I went to was Reformation Seminary. So it's a hybrid 1-year program in Arizona. So basically it was most of the coursework was online. And then I had to go to Arizona 3 times in that year for intensives, where all the guys from all over the country come and sit through some classes. We had to preach in front of each other a few times. And then, it was kind of a get to know each other kind of thing. So we have a network, and actually we have a group text that we graduated almost a year ago, and we still talk all the time. Yeah. So it's a pretty cool group of guys.
So how would you describe your, I guess, religious set of views? Like, are you a Baptist? Are you a Catholic? Are you... So
I'm a Reformed Baptist.
Okay.
The church I go to, Grace Fellowship down in Grayville. So we subscribe to the 1689 London Baptist Confession. There's a lot that goes into that. I'm sure
I have no idea what you're talking about.
No, right. There's not a lot of Reformed churches around here. That's actually the only one within like 100 miles. Like I think Evansville might be the next closest Reformed church. And they're actually a Presbyterian church. So Presbyterians and the Reformed Baptists are very similar in certain things. There are some differences, but very similar. So, I don't know how far you want to go into doctrine and things like that. But, we do have a specific set of beliefs, and, churches around here are not real keen on some of the things that we believe.
Such as what? Is there
the doctrine of salvation, how we're actually saved. So we believe that salvation is of God only, where the Methodist and the Christian church and, your typical Baptist church and things like that, they think that, it's man's choice. And we don't believe that. So that'd be a really big difference, where God does the choosing. God chooses who's going to be saved and who's not. Now, we do have some responsibility.
Wow. Yeah.
So we get accused all the time of not believing in free will, which is nonsense. We absolutely believe in free will.
Yeah.
We just don't believe in absolute free will, as in there's nothing that affects the decisions that I make. And you know what I mean? Because, and this is, one of those things where, depending on what you believe about what the Bible says, the Bible clearly says that we have a sin nature. And, for those of us that are saved, the Bible says that we have the Holy Spirit indwelled in us. So, for the unbeliever, they're influenced by their sin nature. And so they don't have absolute free will. Now, do you have a free will? Yes, you have a free will. You make decisions. Every day you make decisions.
Yeah.
But there are things affecting those decisions. Whether you're cognizant of it or not, there are things that are affecting your decision making. So that would be one of the really stark differences between the Reformed faith and, some of the other ones. So, yeah.
Very cool.
Yep.
I love stuff like that. So, are you currently getting a degree in emergency management?
Yep. So I just started that master's program a month ago. So it should take about a year or so.
What is emergency management?
So that's what I do professionally right now. So I work at Carl Regional Hospital. And so I'm in charge of security and emergency management. So basically, like perfect example, the eclipse on Monday.
Yeah.
Right? So events like that, where because we're in the path of the totality, the rumors are that there's millions of people flocking, or 1 million people-ish flocking to Southern Illinois, to see the eclipse, right?
Wow.
They're coming from all over. This is the rumor. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Are there people traveling? We know there's people traveling because of the last eclipse. But so emergency management is basically thinking about events like that, earthquakes, tornadoes, active shooters,
Wow.
those kinds of things, those catastrophic or potentially catastrophic events, and how to respond to them, how to prepare for them, how to plan for them, how to mitigate them, and then how to, that kind of stuff. So
What if they taught you a little bit of that in high school?
yeah. I don't know why you would need to learn that in high school.
Who knows, man?
Yeah. No, but it's fun though. It's interesting because it goes back to the, if you like playing the what if game, it's a cool, career path, because that's all it is what if this happens?
Yeah.
What are we going to do? Well, what if this happens? What are we going to do? So
I love that
you're
type of
basically just
stuff.
playing the what if game professionally. So they pay you to play the what if game is basically my job. So
That sounds like a good deal. So let's talk about your businesses.
okay.
What is the first business that you ever either started or kind of like, have you ever worked real close with somebody that owned their own business and learned from them? Or did you just go in and just try to do your thing?
So I was always that kid who wanted to sell baseball cards and,
Yeah.
I don't know do you remember Pogs?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So I, collect and sell those and, that kind of stuff. So I was always kind of interested in that sort of thing. Like, it'd be fun to sell something to people.
Yeah.
I'm not shy. I've always enjoyed talking to people. And, I always say if I could go back and do it all over again, I'd probably go into sales, some sort of sales job.
Yeah.
But no, as a kid, I did that kind of stuff, but it was never encouraged or even a possibility in my mind of like, you can start a business. It was just nobody did that. I didn't know anybody that did that.
Yeah.
So it was never really an option just because purely ignorance. But I don't really know what triggered it. It was probably getting out of the military and figuring out what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so the CrossFit thing was the first business that we started.
Did you start that here in Olney?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
When did you start that?
So I got out of the Marine Corps in 2014, and then we moved here in 2015. So there was about 9 months between me getting out and us moving here. So really, I spent that time kind of planning the move and finding a place to live and finding, a place to put the gym and how to start a business. And so that was back when Courtney Yockey. Do you know Courtney Yockey?
I am aware of who.
So he used to run the RCDC, the Richland County Development Corporation. He was super helpful. Like, I would not have been able to do half of what I was supposed to do. I would have been running an illegal business if it weren't for him. So shout out to Courtney. I appreciate your help. He's up in Effingham now, doing his thing up there. But he was super helpful. And then so we bought a house. There was a 1,200 square foot shed on the property, and the way that our property is zoned, it's still zoned agricultural from when it was a farm, and so we can, technically run a business out there, and as long as we have some sort of agriculture, and we have chickens and that kind of stuff. So that was kind of cool. So we ran the gym out there for a while, moved it into town, and then 21 we closed it down. So
You ran the gym at your house? Mm-hmm. Huh.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And then you moved it off of Whittle there?
Yep. Right off of Whittle, right behind the old KC Hall.
What kind of got you into CrossFit?
So in the Marine Corps, we did CrossFit all the time.
Really?
Oh yeah. That was our main way to work out.
Well, that's freaking cool.
Mm-hmm. So I started CrossFit 2010 ish, something like that. Yeah, about 2010, 2011, somewhere in there. It's funny because I didn't have a choice. So the guy that was our team leader at the time, he was big into CrossFit, and he was like, "Hey, we're gonna start doing this new workout program," and we're all thinking like, "Oh, okay, cool. We're gonna do a workout program," and this dude just slayed us. It was terrible. Never done anything like it before. And my first thought was, this is stupid. Why are we working out like this? And then, but he made us keep doing it, and we got in really good shape doing it. And then I discovered, it's a thing. Like, this CrossFit thing. It's like, it's a company, and there's gyms that do this. And so I was like, okay, I just thought he was making this stuff up just to destroy us on a daily basis. But no, there was actually, something behind the whole thing.
Yeah.
So that's when I was like, okay, this is cool. I get it now. Like, it's not just a made up thing.
Yeah.
And then, we just kind of ran with it from there. So, yeah. I wish I was still in CrossFit shape. I've let myself go a little bit.
Well, let myself go as well.
Yeah. There's a guy opening up a new gym though in this month. So I'm
down the street here.
Yeah, Paul Miller is opening. Do you know who he is?
He is my age. We went to school together.
Okay,
he graduated the year I graduated.
Okay.
I'm excited to see what he does.
Yeah, me too, because I need to lose a few pounds.
Yeah, he seems to be really knowledgeable. I do his beard occasionally.
Okay.
And
I coached with him up in Newton, and he definitely knows his stuff. So
at Tri Fitness, or was that elsewhere?
No, Newton Elite Fitness.
Okay.
I coached up there for a few months after I closed down the gym.
Right on.
And he was a coach there as well. So yeah, he knows his stuff. So local people, if you're listening to this and you need to get in shape or lose a few pounds or whatever, go check out Paul.
So what was your experience opening your first business, running it, and what was your experience in that?
So I had a business coach, actually. It was kind of one of those things where I recognized that I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do it, and I was going to do it. So I kind of was fishing around the internet, like how to start a CrossFit business, how to start a podcast. I'm sure you Googled that 1,000 times. That's just how it goes, And I came across this guy named Chris Cooper, and he was a CrossFit gym business mentor.
Oh,
and
that's nice.
So I got in touch with him, and, he helped me basically get the gym up and running, and told me what to do and told me what not to do. And so, I mean, it was great, because I really think I had a head start on, if I didn't have that, it's just been trial and error and shooting from the hip. And so, so it was cool.
My whole business career has been shooting from the hip, man. I've had zero mentors. So it's a hard way to do things. So.
There's a lot of value in I definitely see the value in mentorship and coaching and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I'm actually looking for a business coach now with the online business and stuff, because we're growing quickly with the coffee business.
Awesome.
And I want to make sure that I'm setting things up properly. That way, I don't screw something up on the way up, and then we have to reset and start over and that sort of thing. So so I'm kind of fishing around a little bit, in my network, looking for somebody who can maybe help me out with some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
If any listener here can help Joe out, get in touch with him.
Yeah.
So is there any major lessons learned running the CrossFit specifically?
Yeah. It's a very people-oriented business.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have to be prepared to, if you can't be friends with everybody, you have no business opening a CrossFit gym.
Yeah.
It's like you have to be friends with everybody. You have to make everybody feel welcome. And going back to the kid conversation, everybody's different.
Yeah.
So everybody's needs are different.
Uh-huh.
There was a few people that came to the gym that needed no attention at all. They didn't really want it. They didn't need it. They just came in, wanted to do their thing. They were super friendly. They just didn't need my attention. They didn't need the the social aspect of it. Because a lot of people that joined, they really needed that social aspect to stick with it. You know, that's why the CrossFit gym is different from a traditional gym. Because a traditional gym, you go in, you do your thing. It's kind of an unwritten rule that you just kind of keep to yourself, you know, and kind of go about your business. Whereas the CrossFit gym, it's social hour. You know, the social aspect is number one. The working out is not the main reason why people are there. That's just a byproduct, you know.
Yeah.
But people come to have a good time and to see their friends, and we make it that was kind of the idea behind it, was make it a place where people want to hang out and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
I was talking to one of my good friends, and they were a part of your CrossFit gym, and he said that you did a really, really good job at like facilitating a fun time.
Oh, cool. That's like the greatest compliment a CrossFit gym owner can get. Yeah. You know, honestly,
you
like,
made it fun. You made it like it was a good time to go there.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. That's good. Yeah. That was the idea.
Yeah.
You know, the working out part is honestly, that's kind of the easy part. You know, I can show you how to lift a weight over your head safely and properly and all that kind of stuff. But the having a good time part, yeah. So yeah, that's cool. Yeah. I'm glad to hear that.
So you guys, I don't know if you guys or your wife run a flower farm.
Yep. So my wife has a flower farm out at our property. Red Rubber Boots Flower Farm is the name of it.
Red Rubber Boots.
So whenever she's out there in the garden, she wears red rubber boots.
Nice.
So that was just kind of a cool thing that she came up with.
Very cool.
She came up with Squirrely Joe's too. That was her.
Really?
That was her brainchild also. So yeah, she's pretty clever.
I feel like my girlfriend is much more clever than I am with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'm not a creative at all. Not at all. So
what got you guys into that, or is it just something that kind of just happened?
Flower farm?
Yeah.
She just likes flowers. She likes growing flowers. She likes being in the garden. She just enjoys, you know, just being out, hands in the dirt, out in the sun, and doesn't bother her at all.
So what? I don't even know what a flower farm is. So what is that? So
we've kind of had different. It's kind of been up and down a little bit with the flower farm, just because we renovated our house and that a few years back, and that was a 2-year project. So we actually moved into a house in town that my father-in-law owns. We lived there for 2 years. So trying to farm at a place you don't live is challenging.
I'll bet.
So we've had a couple slower years where we haven't really done a whole lot with it. But her kind of plan is, so she really likes perennials. Do you know the difference between perennials, annuals, that sort of thing?
Nope.
No. Okay. So annuals, and I don't know a lot either. So this is very secondhand things that I've absorbed from her.
Yeah.
So annuals are things that you have to plant every year.
Okay.
Perennials are stuff that come back every year.
Yeah.
So she does a lot of landscaping with perennials to where she can just continue planting perennials every year, but they multiply year over year. That way she can just get to a point to where now this section of the garden, I don't really have to do anything except weed it once in a while, you know, put some wood chips over it, something like that. That way she's just got stuff that's going to come back every year. So and you know, I know she's got tulips popping up, which are my favorite. She's got, oh man, she's going to get mad at me if I don't remember some of these names. I can't remember some of the stuff she's got popping up, but
so
if you drive by her house, you'll see a lot of color and so.
Are you guys selling these flowers? Is it kind of like somebody comes to your deal and like picks their own flowers? And
no, mostly it's kind of just friends right now. So it's not like she's got like she's still kind of getting it to a point where she wants to get it.
Yeah.
To where it's like a full-fledged business. But she'll sell bouquets and stuff on Facebook. You know, she'll go out and pick 10 bouquets or something, put them together, post a picture on Facebook and say who wants these things. So, you know, she doesn't have a website or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's more of just a hobby for her that, you know, makes a few bucks, but we probably spend more on seeds and
Yeah.
stuff like that, which is fine. But eventually she does want it to be something to where it does, income producing, that sort of thing. We're really big on, we want to produce income from our property.
Yeah.
That's kind of a big thing for us is, what can we do with the property that we have to produce income for our family? So
How many acres are you on? Are you on an acre?
just under 4. It's like 3.82 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
That's
not
a lot
huge.
of-
It's not huge, but I mean, it's enough space to do a few things.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Very cool.
Yep.
All right. So let's get into the coffee.
Let's do it.
Why coffee?
Because I love coffee.
Yeah.
Drinking it right now. Yeah. No, it's just, so our journey with coffee. So we were, I drank whatever coffee happened to be at the shop when I was in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
I was probably Folgers, Maxwell House.
Yeah.
It was probably just junk coffee that whoever bought it just went to the store and just grabbed whatever. And then when I met my wife, she drank the Folgers Black Silk, and we thought that was fancy because it wasn't just Folgers, it was Black Silk,
Oh, yeah.
and it was like $1 more for a giant jug of it. So it has to be better if it's more expensive, right?
Right.
So and then we moved to DC. We lived in Washington DC for a few years, and we went to I think it was Whole Foods that we went to, and they had a whole aisle of just premium fresh roasted coffee.
Yeah.
You fill up your own bag, and we were like, oh, this is cool. We should try some of these coffees. So we started drinking that stuff, and we were like, this is
Way better.
not the same as the Black Silk stuff.
Were you grinding your own coffee at that point? Or
We started
was it-
to.
Okay.
Yeah, we started to. And it was more of just kind of like a fun thing. We thought it would
Yeah.
just be fun. And then, so we started drinking good coffee from then on out.
Mm-hmm.
We never went back to the Folgers stuff. And
Were you
then-
going to like coffee shops and things like that, or just kind of interested in the
Yeah.
actual coffee that you could get a hold of?
a little bit? Anytime we would go to a place, we would try and go to a coffee shop. I mean,
Yeah.
we still did the Starbucks thing back then, and we were still kind of, bamboozled by Starbucks, thinking that was good coffee.
Yeah.
And it's not. So, but we've learned,
Yeah.
we made those mistakes.
For sure.
And then 2020 rolled around. And so we were sitting around the table. This was right before like the shutdowns happened. It was kind of like at that in-between time where it's like nobody knew what was going to happen. We heard shutdowns were coming and all that stuff. So I don't know if you remember the toilet paper stuff.
Oh man, I do.
You couldn't find toilet paper.
Yeah.
So friends of ours had made the joke, well, what happens if there's no coffee? What are we going to do? Because we don't import coffee, or we don't grow coffee in the U.S. It's all imported.
Really?
From other countries, yeah.
Nobody. Wow.
Yeah, we don't have the climate for it. So it was like a real fear. Well, if they're going to shut down the supply lines and stuff,
Yeah.
what if that's a real thing?
No caffeine fix.
Yeah, so we were kind of joking like, well, we should just roast our own coffee and start our own coffee business to get people coffee who if you can't get it at the grocery store, and that's what kind of birthed it. And it and it was just kind of a fun silly idea, hobby thing, and then 4 years later, it's a business.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
So whenabouts did you start Squirrely Joe's?
2020.
2020.
Yeah, May of 2020 is when we sold our first bag of coffee.
Nice.
So, yep.
Very cool.
And it was to a local too. It was Amy Kirby was our very first. Do you know Amy?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, she was a CrossFit client also. But yeah, she bought our first bag of coffee. So shout out to Amy Kirby.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So where are you importing coffee from and why?
So we've got coffee from Brazil, Costa Rica, Guatemala, Colombia, and Ethiopia. So each country, and even the regions within the countries, they have different flavor profiles based on, humidity, altitude, there's all kinds of stuff that goes into the flavor of the coffees and the, the size of the bean and that sort of thing. So, I mean, the rabbit hole for coffee goes deep.
Yeah.
You start looking into that stuff, and I mean, you can just go forever learning about that stuff. And then even the way that they process it, there's different ways to process coffee, and that gives it a different flavor.
So it starts with the dirt?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a bush, and then the bushes grow a little cherry, and inside the little cherry is 2 coffee beans. And so when it's time to harvest, they pick the cherries, and then they, pulp them and get the bean out of the cherry, and then they, clean them, lay them out in the sun, let them dry, and then you get the green, coffee bean. And then we import the green coffee bean, and then we roast it and get it to the customer.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So what is the difference in the Ethiopian coffee, the Costa Rican, the Brazilian?
Yeah. So our goal with all the coffees we sell is we are looking for coffees that taste good for the average person, right?
Yeah.
So my customers are not, the coffee snobs.
Right.
Some of them are coffee snobs, but most of them are not. They're just normal people who are going to put it through a drip machine.
Yeah.
And because they're busy, they got jobs, they've got kids, and,
So
they don't have 30 minutes to spend on making one cup, the perfect cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Some of them do, and I love those people.
Yeah.
But most of our customers are not like that. And we know that, and that's who we targeted from the beginning. Mm-hmm. So, we do taste our coffee the way that professionals do. Like we do cup our coffee to where it's like there's a specific way to taste coffee. Mm-hmm. But we also put it through the drip machine to see how it's going to taste, because that's what 90% of people are going to do. They're going to hit start on their way to the shower, and then it's going to be done so they can pour it in their to-go cup and get out the door. Yeah. So we tested in the drip machine also, like, is this going to be good in the drip machine? Because that's what most of the customers use. So that's kind of the idea behind that.
Are you, in the drip machine, are you selling these types of people mostly whole beans that they're grinding themselves, or are you is it a pre-ground situation that you're selling the most of? We
do both. I would say it's about a 70-30 split, 70% being whole bean that we sell.
Nice.
So, and even people that buy ground, we really encourage people, just go buy a cheap grinder from Walmart. Yeah. I mean, you don't need a $200 grinder. Just go get a $10 grinder, $20 grinder. Yeah. It's so much better to grind your own coffee.
Fresher, huh?
But there's a couple people that they don't care. Yeah. They just don't care,
So if you're using a drip machine, you grind your beans and then put it in the top and the water drips through that?
Yeah, so we have a little bit of a higher end drip machine. It's a Mocha Master, so it simulates a pour over. That's what it's supposed to do. But it's close enough to where it's close enough to a cheaper drip machine to where we're going to get, similar taste. But I can taste the difference because I have a cheap drip machine in my office at work. Yeah. And it sucks. Huh. It's not the same. Like, the difference it's not even close.
What do you think the difference is in the machines that makes it taste different?
So the thing with the Mocha Master is there is a setting on the filter to where you can open it halfway. So what it does is as it pours the water, so like a pour over, you want to get that bloom off the coffee first, right? So you wet the grounds and you let the carbon dioxide come off the coffee and let it bloom. And then once that fills up to a certain point, then it starts to overflow into the pot. So the grounds are sitting in the water like they're supposed to in a pour over, whereas a regular drip machine with just a regular filter, the coffee's coming in, and as soon as it hits the bottom of that lip, it's going into the pot. So it's not sitting in the grounds. Yeah. You're not getting the full flavor of the coffee. Wow. So it's just a little bit of a less flavorful cup. But I mean, if you did a taste test, you would definitely be able to tell. Even if you don't know anything about coffee, you would think it was 2 different cups of coffee. And it's not. It's just the machine that you brew it in. Wow. Yeah. So
how would you say, okay, let's run like 3 scenarios here.
Okay.
How would you suggest like the minimal effort coffee? Like I got 7 kids at home and don't really care about coffee. I just want to get coffee in me, but I don't want Folgers.
Sure.
And then middle of the road.
Yep.
And then the best cup of coffee. How would you prepare or suggest people to prepare?
You're talking about machines or
any kind of method, like we use a French press.
So it's a preference thing. I was gonna that was my first. I was gonna talk about the French press. So I'm not a big fan of the French press, honestly. It's a little bit more of a stouter cup of coffee,
really,
than I typically like. So I, in my opinion, for myself, I'm not a huge fan of the French press.
Yeah.
But if you guys like it, then that's the way to go. But the French press is low maintenance too.
Yeah.
You pour the water in, you let it sit, you push the thing down and you pour it. So it's pretty low maintenance. Drinking premium coffee, even on a crappy machine, is still better than Folgers on a great machine, because Folgers is just garbage. It just is. I don't care what you say. It's just not good coffee. They don't use good quality coffee. And it's been sitting on the shelf for who knows how long.
Yeah. In the distributing warehouse.
Right.
And so on.
Right. So by the time it hits the shelf, you don't know how long ago it was roasted. So yeah, I mean, it's really a preference thing. A lot of people like pour overs. I think pour overs are fantastic. I use an AeroPress at work now instead of that stupid cheap machine. I bought an AeroPress, which makes a single cup of coffee, but it's a good cup. It's kind of like a French press, but it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
A good machine is nice. Some people have espresso machines. Those are pricey. So it's really a preference thing.
Yeah. So no suggest. Say somebody they want to get into coffee.
Yeah.
And they buy their first bag of Squirrely Joes.
I would say start with a pour over.
A pour over.
That's what I would say.
A pour over? So
it's basically just a glass jar with,
I think I've saw that. It's got a cork thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got a little cork handle on it. Some of them do. Some of them are different. But you put the filter in, put the grounds in, and then you just pour hot water over the grounds, and it just kind of works its way down. So it's different from a drip machine, even though the concept is the same, because it's dripping slower than a regular drip machine, and you're getting more of that saturation, more of that extraction is what it's called, from the coffee soaking in the water.
Yeah, as opposed to just the water running through the coffee.
Exactly. So if you want to get into coffee and different brewing methods, I would start with that, because you can get one of those for, I don't know, $30 maybe for like a decent one, and then just kind of play with it and see how you like it. And then I would recommend a French press too, because it's easy. Yeah, it's quick. If you don't want to use a drip machine anymore and you want to do something a little bit fancier, then a French press is the way to go. If you like a stout cup of coffee that kind of punches you in the face. So
what's is there a specific ratio of coffee to water if you're going to do the pour over? Or is that obviously?
I don't get into that a whole lot. That's kind of that snobby,
right? And
everybody has their own opinion,
Yeah.
So no, I just
right on.
Yeah, no.
It's your coffee. Drink it how you like it.
I just make a cup of coffee, man. I've got 7 kids and a full-time job, and I don't have time to mess around with the scales and all that kind of stuff. So
Well, is there anything else that you'd like to talk about today?
No, not unless you got more questions, man.
I don't. Tell everybody where they can find you, how to order Squirrely Joe's coffee. I got to say, guys, I've been to a lot of coffee places down in Sarasota and otherwise that, were like the coffee snobs that I used to cut down there were like, you got to go here. You got to try this. Yeah. And I got to say, man, this is up there with the best of them, in my opinion.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
So, guys, get you some Squirrely Joe's coffee. How do they tell everybody?
SquirrelyJoes.com. Simple. Yep. Check it out. So,
Right on.
Yep.
So they can get a hold of you or anything.
Yeah,
that
just
you need to do,
order
just
online. We
squirrely
ship
deals.
all over the U.S. If you're local, you order it. We drop it off at Ophelia's Cup. You can come pick it up, or we can
That's cool.
deliver it right to your door for a small fee. So it's not hard to find us.
Right on.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Thanks
we
for
had
having me.
some video issue, but our audio's been fine. So hopefully I can get that ironed out. Joe, I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.